friends, welcome to this simplified illustration tutorial. Now, if you've been noticing in my work more recently this year, you'll see that I've been experimenting with a very simplistic, very pared down illustration style that I have absolutely fallen in love with. It's not to replace my old style, it's literally just to add to my tool belt, and because I love it so much, I want to add it to your tool belt as well. So we're going to do a demo today, and then after the demo concludes, I will show you a bunch of different renderings with different coloring mediums, and just give you a bit of an idea as to where you can take it from this really simple place into something completely, uniquely, and identifiably you. So let's get straight into it, and I hope you enjoy the tutorial. Alrighty, so we've got my large Dilutions journal here. I do love to sketch in the Dilutions journals. I don't know what it is. I know some people don't like it because it doesn't hold watercolor very well, but they're a very robust journal, very smooth cardstock, and they are designed to hold up to Diane's very liberal use of ink and paint. So they're a really durable journal, and I have of any brand that I own, I have the most Dilutions journals. So I have a small, I have a square, I have a couple of larges, actually I have a couple of smalls. So that I have, I think, about 5 Dilutions journals. I've also got my red blue pencil here. This is the Mitsubishi Vermilion Prussian blue pencil, and I'm going to sketch with this today and do the demo with this because I love to see the working lines in red and then the final lines in blue. Sometimes I think I should demonstrate on one side of the page and then do the final image on the other. The problem I have with that is that when I'm learning, I don't like to take myself away from the template that I need. So if my template's in red and then I can go over the top of it, I think that's a better way for me to learn. It might not necessarily be what I want to end up with, but as far as the learning goes, I think it is better for me to work on top of the template than away from it. So that's why I like to do it with the red blue pencil, because it's just simple. I can just flip the side and we're good to go. If you're someone that wants to erase all of your working lines and your construction lines, just use something that's erasable. There are color erase pencils, and there's also you know, graphite pencils. You can erase those if it's a really light lead. I personally don't really ever erase the construction lines anymore, if ever. A lot of my images, if you go and have a look at my drawings, you can see a lot of the construction lines still all through the face, and I personally don't mind that, but I understand that's not for everybody. So if you need the template, I would suggest using something erasable, but sometimes I think it is better just to work off of the template a bunch of times and then get rid of it and just freehand it. I think if you've got enough confidence from working with it and kind of going through the process a little bit, I think that's also really beneficial, because that repetition will get you to a place where you actually just don't have to use the template anymore at all. But you know, I still like to use templates. So today we're going to create one image over here, and I'm going to replicate that image a bunch of different times and play with a bunch of different mediums. I just want you to get a look at how the aesthetic changes with the different mediums that you decide to render in. So I've got some paint markers, I've got pens, I've got distress crayons, I've got Neocolor 2s, I've got lots of fun things that I want to try and just you know, render these images differently. They will all be the same base image, and that's the one I'm going to teach you today. The left-hand side of the page, I will demo anything that needs to be broken down a little bit, but this is going to be so simple. Honestly, it's like a step up from stick figure drawing, but a step down from drawing anything difficult. I want to give you a base to work with, and you could also pair this with the hair tutorial if you want as well. I want to give you a base to work with and something that is so fun and easy to do that will inspire you to get illustrating more. Illustrating still seems to be one of those things that a lot of people think they can't do, and I think everyone really surprises themselves when they start to do it. And that's not to say you have to give up everything else you love, but even when you're, you know, collaging or something, you've got skills to illustrate, you can build your own image into that collage, and that's where I think you really start to open up possibilities for yourself and to really go deeper into your imagination. So I'm going to stop talking now because I'll be talking forever. So you saw a few pages with the kind of look that we're going for today. If you want to jazz it up with any of the details you already know and understand and love, go for it. If not, I'm gonna do 2 on this page, and then I'll choose which one I like better. We're gonna start with a circle. It can be a circle or an oval, it really doesn't matter. Now, I've noticed in this, you can do the neck from the middle, but sometimes I think it's a lot more interesting to have it off to the side. So I like to draw this little rectangle from my little base. At this point, this almost looks like a P, and this one over here, let's just draw it off the side a little bit. The shoulder area almost looks like a half moon shape. I really like these ones to have rounded shoulders. You'll notice in a lot of the samples, they have very rounded shoulders. So I just catch the bottom of that rectangle with the half moon shape. I'm gonna try and darken up these lines a little bit, just in the red, because I'm not ready to commit to anything just yet. But I do want you to get a better look at it. You can almost start to see the character coming out. We need to leave some space over the side for the arms here, so let's just put in a little body. Much like when we do the brushstroke mermaids and we had that upside down triangle that kind of nips into a waist, that's what I'm gonna add to the bottom here. I would associate this with being a very feminine shape. You know, in the end, it's not gonna be anything realistic, but this upside down triangle here and then a connecting triangle to that, this is going to build in our waist, and you know, depending on the size that you draw the triangles, you will have a smaller waist or a wider waist or a narrower waist or a longer waist. Yeah, it's really up to you how you build that. But if you want something a little more masculine, I would recommend just drawing in another rectangle. Draw a really short square if you want like a stout little body. Draw a really long rectangle if you want a really long lanky body. Now I've drawn these quite large, and that's because I really want some space to play with my mediums today. So I'm not going to go into legs and arms, but I would just recommend finishing your drawing off to the bottom of the page. If you saw the Frida example, all I did was take that triangle all the way down to the bottom of the page, and then it was gone. So on a woman, I would kind of fan that out a little bit, or possibly pull it back in. It really wouldn't matter. I mean, either or. And on a bloke, I would probably just continue down with another rectangle that went all the way off. I might even come up here and put this negative space rectangle in there for his legs. Arms are just these like little snakes that go off to nowhere. I'm gonna hide them behind the body today. Actually, on this one, I'm going to bring them down together. And I still like to taper these arms off so they do get thinner as they approach where they meet. And here's a really fun trick. If you don't want to draw hands like I never do, just draw a little circle there, or even like a flattened out oval. And then it's very loosely implying that her hands are clasped. Alternatively, if you really don't want to draw them, bring the snakes down the side of the body. And by snakes, I mean they're parallel lines, and wherever you decide to run them, they run parallel to each other. Just bring them right down the side of the body and kind of taper them off into the body. If you want to bring them into a pocket, just add a little line and just disappear them into the pocket. We can see our base is kind of done for the body, and this is where I say it's just super simple, because you're really not going to need to worry about any of these details. In fact, it sometimes looks better when you line it in kind of messy. But for the face, I kind of want her face, like the midpoint of her face, to just be off center a little bit. So I'm going to put this little grid line over here, and I'm going to cross section off their faces. I'm going to do this with him too. For the mouth, all we're going to do is add just a tiny dash and then an even smaller dash underneath it. It is literally that. If you want, you can curve them a little bit. Ultimately, we're not drawing the top M part of the mouth. You can if you want. This is where I say the details will depend on what you enjoy. But for me, I'm only going to draw these two lines here. Sometimes I might even be tempted to draw the little M, the little flattened out M. But for these ones today, I'm just going to draw these little lines crossing that midsection on the face. Now, just above that, I'm actually just going to draw another one, probably as the same size as the bottom lip here. For women, I like to keep the nose closer to the mouth and the mouth closer to the chin. I like a lot of negative space up here in the middle of the face. For men, I don't really much care where those end up, unless I'm trying to draw someone with a specific look. The eyes, you want to go about halfway between your midpoint and the side of your face. And I'm just going to draw two rainbows, just touching on that line. I'm going to do the same for the bloke too. I'm literally just going to color the full eyeball in, the full iris. If you want, you can add the extra little dash there. But this is where I like to come back in with my mediums and say add my white highlights in on top of that, or darken up those eyes with some watercolor. That's where I feel like I get to add a lot of the mood and the expression into the face. For the hair, I'm not going to draw any hair on the outside of this circle here. I'm actually just going to worry about the hair that's on the face. So I'm just going to draw some lines that kind of sweep down. If you followed the hair tutorial, you will have seen this is the first part of the video where we look at hairlines. I do want her to have ears, so I'm just gonna add a little C shape on that side and a little smaller C shape on that side. For him, I do want to add, I'm gonna give him a really nice swooping bang. So I'm gonna give him a leaf shape almost. I will extend this from the head just a little bit and kind of put my lines in over there. I'm gonna add a smaller leaf shape coming down the side of his face here. Any hair you add just outside of the face shape will imply that it's a little bit more full. I'm gonna give him some ears. Sometimes I will add just a little eyelid on top, another small line that follows the curve of the top of the eye here. For the ladies, I'll probably get really excited and add lashes, and I mean, I like to keep their faces pretty simple, but you know what I'm like. I think this is the most generic base that we could kind of go with today. The only other thing I would suggest that is instead of these eyes, you might want to try the leaf shape eyes, an even simpler look. And these ones, when I do the leaves, that's when I like to scribble around them and add a lot of extra dimension and depth. You'll have seen this pop up everywhere. I've been kind of obsessed with it since I tried those Tim Burton drawings earlier in the year. So these look pretty simple, and I do just want to follow the outline of the whole thing with my blue. And this is what I mean by being a bit loose with it. You don't have to follow the exact drawing that you did. In fact, if you curve off things and make them a little bit more loose and free, it will start to look a lot more sweet. I don't like to draw the underneath of these eyes because sometimes I think it looks quite heavy and it looks like there's a lot of makeup on the eye. So I do just leave that open, and I'll only add stuff there if I want it to look darker and heavier. I think we have to give her a little outfit, so I'm just going to put a U shape across here and give her a portrait neck, kind of off the shoulder, little gown moment. I might even sweep it in and attach it here. Then we've got a really nice shape going on, and keeping the lines really simple. If you were on the hair tutorial or you had this one playing off to the side, this is where I'd encourage you to start adding the shape of the hair you want on the outside. I'm gonna leave that because I think that's something I might want to change between drawings. I'm actually gonna switch up from this pencil now and ink over the top of this sample with this brush pen. If you find that you can't force yourself to be looser about drawing, hold your pencil further back. You'll find it harder to control, or grab a medium that you know you can't control, like these brush pens. Sometimes there's something so endearing about these lines being very wonky and very skewed. I'm gonna still follow this rectangle at the bottom because that will be where his shirt falls, or his tank top, whatever he's wearing. And then I will just ink in the pants here. I'm gonna put just a little U shape around his neck here. Sometimes I'll put a double and then I will fill it in with little lines just to really make it look like a t-shirt. Might even do the same on the arms here, just tiny ones. There you can see we've got two of these characters following the same really simple principle, but we've got a masculine version and a feminine version. I say those both in the very loosest way that I could possibly say them. But I want you to see that all of those samples you saw was the exact same idea here. I might have tweaked the design a little bit differently. I might have altered some features to be a bit more reminiscent of the other styles and aesthetics that I like, but this is the very base of it, and it is so simple. As with everything, if you break it down into shapes, it really does start to make sense. And the way that I picture all of this coming together is how you decide to line those shapes. If you want to pull them in, you get a really different look. If you want to pull them out, you get a really different look. It really is just all about proportion at this point and placement. How you decide to skew your characters and how you decide to detail them and where you decide to detail them is what will pull it out of this really simple base and into your aesthetic, your style, and something that is truly reflective of what you like. So I'm going to turn to another page and I'm just going to draw a few of these and I'm going to render them with different mediums.